Welcome, friends. Manoj, my student and the coordinator of this program, has informed me that it is a heterogeneous group from many disciplines. How many of you are from natural science background? All of you are from social science or?
Yes, sir. From science background.
Okay.
I am from a science background, sir.
Okay.
I am from science background.
Biology stream or physics?
Sir, I am from biology background. Physical, sir. I am from physics.
Okay.
I am from electronics.
Okay.
The biology background.
And which language you prefer? English, Hindi or hybrid?
English, sir. English, sir. I am hybrid, sir.
All of you want?
Hybrid, sir.
Pardon?
Hybrid, sir.
Okay.
Hybrid, sir.
Okay. Let me see what can I do for you. Unfortunately, I know 27 languages.
Fortunately, sir.
Unfortunately, because in case I speak in most of the languages I am proficient with, it will not be a democratic decision. Therefore, let me introduce the way I could. The number of pages in my CV is partial because it mentions only English and Hindi publications, not my publications in other languages. But first let me introduce myself and then the topic. Basically, I am a Buddhist sociologist and Vedic cosmologist. But for the last 3 decades, under pressure from peer group, I also function as a therapist, as a healer. Manoj told me that I should speak on the topic cinema and culture in India. I have 3 publications which are directly linked with this topic. One is this, Cinema and Culture in India. But this book is also related with cinema and culture in India, where I contrast a discipline called sociology with another discipline called cinema. And then there is a third book which was published a little earlier during Corona time in 2020. It was in Hindi, Bharat mein Cinema or Sanskriti. The 2 books, Cinema and Culture in India and Bharat mein Cinema and Sanskriti, are altogether qualitatively 2 different books and not translations. Because I do feel that language, any language for that matter, is not only a mode of communication, but it is also a way of thinking, a culture. Therefore, I do feel that we must distinguish between the transactional languages, for example, Hindi and English, these are not classical languages. No classic can be written in either English or Hindi. These are transactional. Transactional, you understand? When you go in the market and you buy something, you usually use these days in the global village English and Hindi. But cinema also is a language. And most people do not understand it as a language or as an institution. Therefore, I will speak about 4-5 points in the beginning, which I will try to elaborate. Number 1, there is a bad habit of over-classification in the universities. For example, Isaac Newton is a well-known name, and most people think that he is a scientist, which he was not. Isaac Newton has written more than 40 books, and only one book is Principia Mathematica. The other 39 plus books are written in Christian theology. And Principia Mathematica is also Christian mathematics. The way there is a Vedic mathematics in India, the author of the Vedic mathematics is a Shankaracharya, was a Shankaracharya, Bharti Krishna Tirth. Then there is another author. I am contrasting Isaac Newton with Goethe, or Goethe. In English, some people call him Goethe. In Hindi, we call him Goethe, and in German, he is called Goethe. He had written 10 books, and only one book was written in literature. 9 other books are in the field of biology, botany in particular. And he is classified as a poet. Are you getting my point? There is one person, Isaac Newton, whose 39 books out of 40 are written exclusively on Christian theology, and he is not regarded as a theologian, but he is regarded as a scientist. On the other hand, there is Goethe or Goethe, who wrote 10 major works. 9 works are in the science of biology, botany in particular, but he is regarded as a poet. Now, how do you look at it? How do you look at this classification, this identity? Now, on the basis of published works, it is very difficult to arrive at this conclusion that Father Newton was a scientist and scientist Goethe was a poet. Because Indian civilization has been, to a large extent, even today, it is oral civilization. Indians enjoy talking more than writing. And therefore, when the print technology came in India with European colonization of India, there were some unfortunate developments. There were stereotypes which were created, there were myths which were created. One myth was that literate is equal to educated, and illiterate is equal to a fool, an idiot. But this may not be the case. For example, there is a very famous novel by a Russian, Fyodor Dostoevsky, The Idiot. How many of you have heard the name or read it?
Heard the name, sir.
It is a very,
Heard the
very...
name and heard of other books such as Crime and Punishment.
Crime and Punishment is very important in the other context, but here when I am comparing cinema and university in India, because culture is a very vast area and I am only comparing and contrasting two institutions of Indian culture in the beginning, the institution of university and the institution of cinema. And before we come to India, let us compare and contrast United States of America with Europe. The first university of Europe is University of Paris, 13th century. Then Oxford and Cambridge came in, and then many other universities came to European soil. Whereas the first university in United States of America came in 18th century. And it is still coming, both in Europe and United States of America. Now, in European and American continent, universities are taken much more seriously than cinema. In Europe and United States of America in particular, and other American countries in general, university is taken much more seriously. It is taken as a serious, excursus of mind. Whereas cinema is considered both in Europe as well as in America as an institution of culture industry. There is a book by Theodor Adorno, a German social scientist, by this name, Culture Industry. And he says that cinema as a culture industry emerged in Europe and United States of America particularly for entertainment. For whom? For those who were uprooted from their cultural roots. How they were uprooted from their cultural roots? For example, in Europe, when industrial revolution took place in 16th century, most people think that industrial revolution is 18th century phenomenon. This is not historically correct. In 18th century, industrial revolution did take place primarily in United Kingdom, which is a union of 4 countries: England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland, and France. This is called Second Industrial Revolution. And what was the salient or defining feature of this salient revolution, this industrial revolution? Number 1, these were primarily Protestant countries. In 18th century, the Anglican Church had separated itself from the Catholic Church, and instead of the Pope, King of Great Britain became the chief of Anglican Church. Whereas after the French Revolution, France also became by and large a Protestant country influenced by Calvinist sect. In contrast, the 16th century industrial revolution was a Catholic phenomenon, and it took place in Spain, Portugal, Holland or Netherlands, Italy, and France. But France, of course, it was a very important Catholic country in 16th century. It was not the front runner of either industrial revolution or colonization of non-European territories. Therefore, to recruit manpower both as blue-collar workers, laborers, and white-collar workers, the mental laborers, people were uprooted from their Christian communities, primarily in rural areas, and a new phenomenon called Metropolises emerged in Europe. Primarily, metropolitan centers emerged as commercial towns or industrial towns where workers came from their their communities alone. Are you getting my point? They left their parents, their siblings, brothers and sisters, and they came alone to work in the newly industrialized countries for work. Therefore, they were migrants. All metropolitan centers in Europe were settlements for the migrants from different corners of Europe. Now these people came alone, therefore they needed emotional support. In 16th century, the Catholic Church was providing this emotional support. But when Protestant movement, Protestant reforms were spreading in Europe, there was a problem. The Catholics emphasized that going to the church at least on Sunday is mandatory. Are you getting the point? For the Catholics, going to the church at least one day in 7 days was mandatory. But Protestant teachers, Protestant leaders, namely Martin Luther, John Calvin, and Zwingli, they emphasized home-based Christianity. They emphasized that work is worship, time is money, honesty is the best policy. Therefore, during the Second Industrial Revolution in particular, the role of Catholic Church, or any church for that matter, started declining. And huge migration from villages and rural areas to bigger cities called metropolis and megapolis created a need for a new emotional support system, which will take the job of the Catholic Church. Therefore, cinema emerged as a secular institution in Europe. And secular in European sense means Protestant and not Catholic. Catholics cannot be secular. Either you are Catholic or you are secular. You cannot be both at the same time. This was a greater dilemma in Europe. There was no such dilemma in United States of America or India. Because here the term secular, in India, the term secular is not understood as non-Catholic or Protestant. Here the word secular is understood, rightly or wrongly, as sarva dharma samabhav, similar attitude to all religions. Are you getting the point? Secondly, when cinema came in India, India was still largely a colonial, agricultural, rural country, ruled by first the East India Company and then by the British and Portuguese Raj. Therefore, cinema in India was something else in India. Cinema in India contributed a different type of function or role than it was playing in European or American countries. Are you getting the point? Since we were not industrialized the way Europe was industrialized in 20th century, cinema came in India at the fag end of the 19th century, and the first film which was made exclusively in India was a film called Raja Harishchandra by Dada Sahab Phalke in 1913. Therefore, cinema is more than 100 years old. And cinema uses audio visual language. Therefore, to watch a film, being literate is not necessary. Are you getting the point? But to read a newspaper or a book, you must need literacy. Therefore, it is a very complex relationship in India between the university and cinema, whereas it is a very simple relationship in Europe or United States of America. This is point number one. Do you have any question? I do not follow the method of giving 1 hour lecture and then questions. I will make one point and then invite questions. In case there are no questions, then I will go to the second point. So far I have made 2 points, that popular classifications in Europe as between Goethe or Goethe and Isaac Newton is one example, and second is university, the role of university and cinema in Europe and America. Any question? Okay. Now before...
Yes, anybody have a question? Then please come up.
Okay. Now I will...
If you don't have, then we can proceed.
And then the second thing which I would like to stress is that the university, although cinema emerged in both Europe and America as a culture industry and serious pursuit of knowledge, but there are differences in both the universities as well as cinemas of Europe and America. This is second point. Number one, all universities in Europe from 13th century until now are not secular universities. No university in Europe was or is secular even today. All universities were primarily Christian universities where secular subjects, so-called secular subjects, were added on with the passage of time. In contrast, all universities in United States of America are secular in origin, where religious subjects like Christian theology and other theologies were added on. Is this point clear to all of you? Although, by and large, universities and cinemas play more or less similar roles, but their point of origin and their character, both of university and cinema, is not similar in Europe and America. Are you getting the point? Now this second point is subdivided in two other points. Point number one, all universities in Europe are religious and, to be precise, Christian in origin and character, where secular subjects were also added on. Secondly, in almost all countries of Europe, cinema emerged as ideological tool, where political ideology and economic ideology was vigorously articulated and advocated. In contrast, all universities in the United States of America in particular and other American countries are not only secular in origin, but these are also private universities. European universities are either state universities or it is financed and managed by the Catholic Church. Whereas in the United States of America, all universities are private universities. There is no public university in the United States of America. And these are by and large Protestant universities, secular universities, where Catholic religion is not only criticized, but sometimes it is hated also. The second, sub-point of my this argument is that American cinema was non-ideological in the very beginning. It was a product which claimed to be pure entertainment. The role of European cinema was to restructure the politics and economy of European countries. Whereas the role of American cinema from the very beginning was pure entertainment. And it was a commercial project aimed at both profit and entertainment. In contrast, let us come to the Indian scenario. As you know, India had a long history of universities even in ancient India. And it was not only Takshila and Nalanda, there were many universities in ancient India until the medieval period. And all Indian universities were global in nature. For example, both at Nalanda and Takshila, there were students from many continents. For example, you read a book written by a Greek historian, Megasthenes Indica. You come to know that there were Greek students, there were Persian students, there were other Asian and American students in Takshila. And Huensang says that also in Huensang, the Chinese historian or traveler. Therefore, India had a long history of universities, whereas in Europe, there was no university before 13th century. Yes, there were academies or schools. We have primary schools and we have satsang, with saints. In the same way, in Greece, ancient Greece, there is Socrates or Sukrat, who is a great philosopher, who is counseling both the masses and the elites, the kings and princes. But he is not running any academy. The same is true about Plato, the disciple of Socrates and teacher of Aristotle. But by the time of Aristotle, first academy or first primary school was opened in Greece. And Alexander the Great was one of the illustrious students of Aristotle. Much before the universities came in India, there was a book called Natya Shastra written by Bharat Muni. And there were Brihad Katha written by Gunadhya, which was simplified for the common people in a book called Katha Sarit Sagar, which was translated in Persian, and the Persian translation was translated in English and European languages. It is known as the Arabian Nights. Are you getting the point? Therefore, although cinema is a new institution in India, but natak, play, katha, kahani, these are very old popular institutions in Indian culture, both in South India as well as in North India, both in Northeast as well as in Southwest. Therefore, when cinema came in, it did not disrupted the narrative tradition of India. Are you getting the point? There is no structural transformation after cinema came in. Rather, there is rejuvenation of the old storytelling traditions of our dadis and nanis. Dadis, fathers, mother, and nanis, mothers, mother. Are you getting the point? पहले दादी और नानी कहानी सुनाती थी, अब सिनेमा कहानी सुनाती है. तो मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि सिनेमा ने कोई क्रांतिकारी बदलाव नहीं किया भारतीय समाज में, जबकि अमेरिकन और यूरोपियन सिनेमा ने उनके समाज में जो क्रांतिकारी बदलाव हो रहा था उसको बल दिया. सिनेमा इन यूरोप एंड अमेरिका nourished the revolutionary forces of change, whereas cinema in India nourished the traditional culture of this continent, Akhand Bharat or South Asia or whatever. Are you getting my point? Therefore, unlike the print technology, which brought in newspaper, magazines and books, which remained and which is still, something related with the middle class and the elites. Cinema was something related with the masses. The universities function for the middle classes and upper classes, and therefore in Indian constitution there was provision of reservation of the deprived classes, castes and tribes, and through a state subsidy, sponsorship and reservation, people of rural areas, people of, poor tribes and lower castes also were getting admission in universities. Whereas cinema in India was an equalizer. Universities in India perpetuate inequality in one form or the other. For example, through reservation, people of deprived classes get admission in universities and they get good jobs after that. Then they become equal to the middle class of any other social origin, but in their native place, in their own caste and tribe and villages, they become slowly alienated from their uneducated or unlettered kins and affines. Kins, those who are related by blood; affines, those who are related by marriage. Therefore, universities do not equalize. They recreate new types of inequality in which common discourse is not possible. For example, there is a brother who was sent to Oxford in 1930s, and his education was financed not only by father and mother but also by other brothers and sisters. And once he comes with a degree from Britain and gets a good job, his discussion, his discourse is qualitatively different from those who finance his education. Whether the boy is from the upper caste or lower class doesn't matter. Are you getting the point? Therefore, modern education in India created two public spheres. The public sphere of university and the public sphere of the non-university. Now, cinema pitched in as the rival of university in India, and I do not know about your places, but I do not know who has come from which village or which town or which region of India, but I have done a lot of field work, and I do feel that India is a federation. India is a federation of geographical, cultural, linguistic, ecological regions. Are you getting the point? India is a federation of semi-autonomous, geo-cultural, linguistic and ecological regions. And there is unity in diversity. What is unity? There is one mode of thinking. Anand Kentish Kumar Swami, who was half Sri Lankan and half British, has written a book, Figures of Speech and Figures of Thought. In that book, Kumar Swami says he was a Sri Lankan Tamil. And I think you all know that Tamil is one of the oldest languages of India. It is older than Sanskrit, although not older than the Vedas, because Vedas are Shruti. They are not written books, they are oral books. Are you getting the point? Sanskrit is not older than Tamil. Tamil is one of the oldest languages of India. And Dravidian and Aryan, they are not races. These are linguistic families. Therefore, Kumar Swami is saying that there is a difference in figures of speech, but there is unity in figures of thought. The name of the book is Figures of Speech and Figures of Thought. Writer A.K. Kumar Swami, Anand Kentish Kumar Swami. Kumar Swami not from KU but COO. Are you getting the point? Therefore, there is unity in diversity in India. There is diversity of geography or climate and weather. There is diversity in customs, folkways and mores. There is diversity of food and dress. There is diversity of ecological conditioning. There is diversity in languages and speeches. But there is underlying unity of thought. There is a superstructure and then there is a infrastructure or basic structure. Beneath all the language, beneath all the geographical differences, beneath all the ecological differences, there is a mode of thinking which is traditional and it is qualitatively different from modern. This is my second point. Any questions? Questions or queries, or should I proceed?
Anybody having question? Sir, we are lost in what you are speaking. I mean, the way you are speaking, we have never heard before. So we are so privileged to hear you. Please go on.
Thank you. Now, what is meant by tradition and modernity? You must have heard many explanations of tradition and modernity, but according to me, the most important difference between tradition and modernity is the concept of space and time. Have you heard the name of Albert Einstein? Of course, science students may have read him and heard his name, but how many of you, those who are from humanities and social sciences, heard the name of Albert Einstein?
He also, sir,
Somebody wanted to say something?
sir, we also know Einstein very well, sir.
Okay, but do you know Einstein has written one of the finest pieces on religion. There is a very popular book of Albert Einstein which everybody should read, despite their primary training in a particular discipline. The name of the book is Ideas and Opinions. It is very cheap book. not very costly. Ideas and opinions, and second is the world as I see it. Now, why I brought in his name? Because most people think that Newtonian physics is still relevant today. What was the cardinal principles of Albert Einstein? Albert Einstein agreed with most of the propositions of Isaac Newton, but he qualified his two statements. Statement number one, according to Isaac Newton, there is no loss of energy. There is no loss of energy when you transform the liquid into solid or solid into liquid and gaseous. This was the popular notion. Therefore, energy is fixed. There is the volume of energy will be always the same. And second concept was mass and velocity. Now, do you know what is the root of the Newtonian concept of mass and velocity? It is church. Therefore, what I am trying to say is that religion and science were not polar opposites, either in Europe or in India. There is a complementary relationship between religion and science. Therefore, the case of Galileo Galilei is unnecessarily highlighted. There was a small period when science and religion were polar opposites. They were considered enemies even in Europe. Whereas in India, there was never a conflict between religion and science. There was never a conflict between pre-modern Europe, also between religion and science. It is only during modernity that religion and science were contrasted with one another. Now, what was the foundation of this conflict between religion and science? It was the concept of space and concept of time. For most modern Europeans, time was not sacred. It was a secular concept. And for most of modern Europeans, space was also a secular concept devoid of any divinity. Are you getting the point? Therefore, John Calvin said, one of the great Protestant leaders of Europe, he said that time is money. Whether it is dollar or pound or rupiah or ruble doesn't matter, or riyal. Are you getting the point? time is money and space is a geographical place where there is 30% land and 70% water. Whereas in tradition, time is Lord Shiva. Time is Lord Shiva. Therefore, time is sacred. Shiva is called Mahakal, and Kal in Sanskrit may be translated as time. Are you getting the point? For the modern Europeans, time is money, but for the Indians, time is Lord Shiva. Secondly, for Europeans, the space, whether land or sky or water, these are objects to be consumed by man. But for the traditional people, not only in India, but also in China, but also in Mayan civilization, but also in Babylonia. Are you getting the point? Also in ancient Africa, space was not an object to be consumed by man. Rather, man is also one of the species among 84 lakh species created by God, whatever his or her name is. Are you getting the point? Therefore, in Mayan civilization of America or Incan civilization of America, space and time is not secular, it is sacred. We call Shiva, they call something else. In the same way, how do we conceptualize space? Space is considered as mother goddess. And therefore, in England, they call their country fatherland. We call our country motherland. Their God is always masculine, a man. In our country, God is never a male. The Supreme God is never a male. Either he is Ardhanarishwar, Shiva Shakti. Shiva is Nirgun. Therefore, in the Shiva temple, there is a lingam. And the lingam, signifies, symbolizes the male and the female as complementary units. And in Shakta Sampradaya of India, it is considered that the earth is the extension of goddess body. Earth is as living as we are. Plants are as living as we are. Waters are as living as we are. Mountains are as living as we are. Are you getting the point? Therefore, we have a different notion of man and cosmos. Our civilization has been a cosmic civilization from the very beginning. Our concept of man, nature, and divinity is different. Our concept of earth, water, ether, mountain, river is different. And it is reflected in our traditional classical cinema. What is classical cinema? If it began in 1913, up to 1990, when India was not liberalized and India was not on the path of globalization, the cinema made in India until 1990 was much more rooted in Indic tradition. And please remember, my friends, India is not only the country of Hindus. Christianity came to Kerala in 72 AD. Christianity came to India in 72 AD. And Christianity went to Europe in 4th century AD. Now, how do we call Europe a Christian nation? Christianity is also part of our culture. And in 72 AD, they did not come as conqueror or invaders or colonizers. They came here because we were very, very tolerant of different faiths. Then Islam came to India again in Kerala in 6th century AD, just after Arabia. Before they came to Persia, or Turkey, they came to India. And Indian Islam and Indian Christianity is very different from the European Islam and European Christianity in traditional sense of the term. Secondly, Hindu is not a religion, it is a geocultural concept where different types of faith have been living from ancient times. For example, there are Astikas and Nastikas philosophies in India. What is the meaning of Nastik in India? Anyone? Nastik is not one who doesn't believe in God. It may be the connotation in Europe. But in India, Nastik means those who do not believe in the Vedas. Those who do not believe in the Vedas are called Nastikas in Sanskrit. And who are the Nastikas? They are the Jains. They are the Buddhists. They are the Lokayatas. And they are the Ajivikas. Who are the Ajivikas? The followers of Makhili Ghoshal. Who are the Lokayatas? The followers of Sage Brihaspati. Charvak was the last notable Lokayata. Who are the Buddhists? The followers of Gautam the Buddha, who are divided into 3 important sects. And these are called Asthavirvadis. Asthavirvad is popularly known as Heenayan, which is a derogatory term. Then Mahayanis, and then Vajrayanis. In the same way, Jainas are also subdivided into 3 sects. And they are called Swetambaraj, Digambaraj, and Asthanak Vasis. Now what about those who follow the Vedas? They are also divided into many sects. For example, there is a sect called Saivites. Those who worship Lord Shiva, they are called Saiv. Then there are Vaishnavas, those who follow Vishnu, and there are 9 incarnations of Lord Vishnu. Third, there is Shakti worshippers, worshippers of Shakti. Who is the original Shakti? Anybody knows the name? In South India, she is known as Lalita Tripura Sundari. In North India, she is known as Durga. In Tripura, she is known as Tripura Sundari. And she combines Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati, Mahakali. Together, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati, Mahakali, together, they are one entity named Lalita Tripura Sundari or Durga. Now, there is another sect who doesn't follow Shakti, doesn't follow Shiva, doesn't follow Vishnu. They are known as Smartas. Have you heard the name? Have you heard the name of a Smarta?
Yes, sir.
A Smarta means those who follow a Smriti. Vedas are called Shruti, and Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Aranyakaj, Brahmanas. Most people think that Brahmin is a caste or a Varna. Brahmanas are commentaries on the Vedas. For example, Satpath Brahman, Gopath Brahman. These are books, not people. Those who follow Vedas, they are Srot, followers of Shruti. And those who follow Puranas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Aranyakaj, Upanishads, they are called Smartas. Adi Shankaracharya tried to codify Smartas as followers of 5 gods and goddesses. They are Surya or Sun, Ganpati or Ganesh, Surya 1, Ganpati 2, Shiva 3, Vishnu 4, Shakti 5. Worshippers of 5 gods and goddesses. But then Indologists are those who study India as a civilization. They call that there are 33 crores gods and goddesses in India. Therefore, what I want to say is that in Indian universities, there is a tendency to overgeneralize. There is a tendency to over-universalize the local customs. Now the local customs are much more important, and these are called little traditions, or these are called Laukika, whereas the classical tradition is known as Shastras. Why I am discussing these things is that to understand Indian cinema, you should be educated, not literate. And education is not dependent on literacy. Are you getting the point? Our grandmothers and grandfathers may be illiterate, but they may be educated and wise. Wisdom and knowledge is not dependent on school or university education. One can learn through socialization the great art of theory construction, not only in social sciences, but also in medical sciences and physical sciences. As a result, and this is my last important point, there is a book, Reorient. All of you must read it. There is a book called Re-Orient by Andre Gunder Frank. He is a very famous social scientist from Germany who was a Marxist in his early part of career for more than 30 years. Then suddenly he got the hard data which made him aware that until 18th century, please note my friends, until 18th century, India was with China the largest economy of the world. India and China together contributed more than 70% of the global domestic product of the world. In other words, India and China together, they dominated the global economy until 18th century. And the role of Europe was very, very marginal. Therefore, they did not conquer us, or they did not defeated us on the basis of either wealth or knowledge or muscular power. Therefore, Gandhi is writing in his book Hind Swaraj, written in 1907-8. There are different dates, but by 1907, the first draft was definitely ready, that the English have not defeated us. Rather, we have gifted our nation to the British to govern it. Now, what Andre Gunder Frank wrote in early 1990s in the book Reorient was well documented by historian Dharampal in his 7-8 books, which are based on archival materials which he collected from London archives. One of the books is known as The Beautiful Tree, and the status of education in 18th century India. Second was Science and Technology in 18th century India. Third was Panchayati Raj and Democratic Institutions in 18th century India. Something like this. Before Dharampal, whose books came in 1980s, there was a book edited by Tapan Rai Chaudhary and Irfan Habib. It is known as the Cambridge Economic History of India, Volume 1. These three authors, Andre Gunder Frank, Dharampal, and the two editors, Irfan Habib and Tapan Rai Chaudhary, they have provided us masses of data which says that until 18th century, India was the richest country of the world. India was the most literate country of the world. India was one of the most healthy society on earth. India was one of the most scientifically advanced country of the world. Then the question is, if nothing was wrong with us, then why we are so poor today and Europeans are so rich today? This is a question which these authors do not answer explicitly. I have answered this question in this book. We lagged in one field, and that was military technology. Our soldiers were much more courageous and ethical.
Name please of this book, sir.
Pardon?
Name. What is the name of this book, please?
I was telling the name of the books. First book is Andre Gunder Frank.
Your book, sir.
My book. The name of the book is Indology. These books are available on Amazon. Indology, Amazon, the online book selling. Indology, Sociology and Culture in India. Second book is Sociology of Cinema and Culture in India. There are other books of mine also, but for this lecture, you can rely on these two books. And this fact which I just quoted, that we had everything but we were defeated because we lacked in military technology, is in this book, Indology, Sociology and Culture in India, chapter 2, Cinema and Culture in Indian Sociology, a Theoretical Excursus. In this second chapter of this book on Indology and Sociology, Indology, Sociology and Culture in India, I claim this, that it is only military technology, advancement in military technology in Europe, which empowered them to colonize almost the entire world. Therefore, it is not sufficient to be rich. It is not sufficient to be literate and educated. It is not sufficient to be healthy. It is not sufficient to have good medical system. Are you getting the point? Just because of one factor, a country may become victorious for a limited period of time. But their military technology is also not sufficient to make Europeans at the top for all time. Therefore, the great American empire was defeated by a poor small country called Vietnam in 1960s. And you may laugh at me, my dear friends, but India includes not only this India. India also includes Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Tibet, Indonesia. It is a large chunk. The Indians in Afghanistan, known as Taliban, they defeated the great American empire just a few years ago. On 15th August 2021, Indians residing in present Afghanistan, known as Taliban, the proud Indians, then, whose ancestors wrote the Vedas, whose ancestors created the great Mughal Empire, the great Maurya Empire, the great Chola Empire, defeated the Americans. Therefore, it is not only Vietnam, but also Afghanistan, which defeated them. Therefore, history cannot be judged only on the basis of one factor, either economic or political or economic or educational or technological. Ultimately, the strength of a civilization resides in the moral values of a nation. I think it is 1 o'clock.
We have 10 minutes approximately for the question answer session.
Yeah,
So
welcome.
Have questions, please. We are running short of time. Do come up.
Yeah, please come up with your questions and queries. I do not guarantee that I will answer them, but I will try my honest attempt. I will try my best to answer your questions, but I believe in two things. I believe that asking a good question is more important than giving a good answer. Because question may be individual, answer is always collective. One person cannot make a country great, whether it is me or Narendra Modi, Manmohan Singh or Jawaharlal Nehru, Stalin or Naveen Patnaik. It is only collective wisdom which makes a country great. Even if I do not answer your question, I am not defeated. Your victory is my victory. Are you getting? In the world of knowledge, questions are more important than the answers. Answer can be only collective answers. Individual answers have no place at all in the history of science. Please come up with your questions and queries.
Yeah, please come up with your questions. We are running short of time.
In case you are not able to frame your questions at the moment, then the coordinators have my WhatsApp number. You may ask your questions on WhatsApp, and I am delighted to answer any questions I come across, because I learn more from the questions than by reading books.
सर प्रणाम, मैं डॉक्टर पुनीता गुप्ता। मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था सर, स्थानकवादी किसे कहते हैं? सर ये नहीं मेरे को स्पष्ट हो पाया है, अपना एक बार बताने की कृपा करें।
देखिए, जो दिगंबर होते हैं ना, उनके जो साधु होते हैं, जो मुनि होते हैं, वो कपड़े नहीं पहनते
जी।
और जो श्वेतांबर होते हैं वो केवल जो श्वेतांबर मुनि होते हैं, श्वेतांबर जैन मुनि होते हैं, वे सफेद कपड़े पहनते हैं। श्वेत मतलब उजला, अंबर मतलब वस्त्र। और स्थानिक वासी वे होते हैं जो ऋषभ देव से भगवान महावीर तक जो उनके 24 तीर्थंकर हुए हैं, उनकी बातों को मानते हैं, लेकिन ड्रेस को बहुत इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं देते। आप कह सकते हैं कि इन लोगों का जो स्थानकवासी हैं, उनके लिए दिगंबर, उनके लिए जो 24 तीर्थंकर हैं वो ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट हैं, बजाय जो प्रेजेंट अभी जो मुनि हैं और आचार्य हैं। समझ में आ गई आपको बात?
जी सर जी। सर एक और पुनः क्वेश्चन है मेरा कि शंकराचार्य ने 5 भगवान को माना है, उसमें सबसे पहले किसका, उनके अनुसार, शंकराचार्य के मत के अनुसार सर्वप्रथम किनका पूजन करना चाहिए?
शंकराचार्य ने तो कहा कि भगवान का कोई रूप न होता ही नहीं है, न रंग होता है, न आकार होता है। शंकराचार्य तो अद्वैत वेदांत को मानते थे और वो कहते थे कि भगवान का कोई रूप वगैरह नहीं है। लेकिन यदि आपको किसी रूप को आधार बनाकर पूजा करनी ही है तो इन 5 में से किसी की कर लीजिए या नहीं करिए। आप समझ रही हैं? शंकराचार्य का व्यक्तिगत मत ये था कि जो ईश्वर है वो निर्गुण है, वो निराकार है, उसका ना कोई रूप है, न रंग है, न उसका कोई गुण है। लेकिन वो कहते थे कि कोई जरूरी नहीं है कि मेरी राय सभी माने। कोई भी जो यूनिवर्सल थिंकर होता है ना, जैसे चाहे वो मोहम्मद हो या जीसस हो या शंकराचार्य हो या रामानुजाचार्य हो या जो यहूदियों के जो बड़े आचार्य हुए हैं, कोई भी पैरोकियल नहीं होता। उनके चेले फंडामेंटलिस्ट हो सकते हैं, गुरु फंडामेंटलिस्ट नहीं होते। यदि वो फंडामेंटलिस्ट हैं तो गुरु नहीं हो सकते, वो विद्वान होंगे। विद्वान फंडामेंटलिस्ट हो सकता है, गुरु नहीं, क्योंकि गुरु में गुरुता होती है। गुरुता मतलब गुरुत्वाकर्षण। आप उसके ज्ञान से, उसके ज्ञान में उतना ही पावर होता है जितना मैग्नेट में। आप समझ रहे हैं बात को? तो जो गुरु होता है ना, वो केवल अपने शिष्यों को नहीं शिक्षा देता, वो पूरे यूनिवर्स को शिक्षा देता है। उसको मानिए या ना मानिए। तो शंकराचार्य की जो शिक्षा है वो केवल उनके अपने अनुयायियों के लिए नहीं है। उन्होंने कहा कि उनका रूप होगा तो 5 तरह का हो सकता है, लेकिन उन्होंने ऐसा नहीं कहा कि 6 नहीं हो सकता, 600 नहीं हो सकता। अच्छा, एक और बात बता देता हूं, मैं भूल गया था। शंकराचार्य बाय द वे उसी तरह दार्शनिक नहीं थे जैसे न्यूटन साइंटिस्ट नहीं थे। आपको पता है शंकराचार्य क्या थे? वो दुनिया के सबसे पहले मिलिट्री स्ट्रेटेजिस्ट थे।
सर आपकी आवाज कट रही है।
शंकराचार्य दुनिया के पहले मिलिट्री स्ट्रेटेजिस्ट थे। उन्होंने एक आर्मी बनाई, एक नहीं 10 आर्मी बनाई, जो 10 नामी संप्रदाय के नागा सन्यासी हैं। और उन्होंने मैनेजमेंट की दुनिया की पहली किताब लिखी, उसका नाम है मठामनाय। उनको फिलोसफर भारत के लोग नहीं मानते थे, ना आज मानना चाहिए। उनको अंग्रेजों ने फिलोसफर बना दिया और कहा कि भैया तुम्हारे जो शंकराचार्य हैं, हमारे यहाँ इमैनुअल कैंट नाम का एक दार्शनिक हुए हैं, उनके जैसा है। उन्होंने कहा कि हमारे यहाँ जो अलेक्जेंडर था ना, तुम्हारा चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य, उसके जैसा है। हम लोगों को अंग्रेजों के चोचले में नहीं पड़नी चाहिए।
Sir, we have two questions in the chat box. One is from Nabarun Chakravarti and another one is from Dr. Einstein. So if they can ask their question themselves, I'll be so happy. If not, then I'll have to read. So please come up and put your question yourself.
Yes, sir. Sir, good morning, sir. This is Dr. Einstein Charles.
जी बताएं।
Hello. Yes, sir. Sir, what is the role of cinema in socio-economic development of marginalized population in India, sir?
अच्छा, you are from which district of India?
Sir, I am from Tamil Nadu, sir.
Sir, I have not asked about state, I have asked about district. Because Tamil Nadu state is a British construction.
Viluppuram, sir.
Okay, very good. You are from the great place. Please repeat your question.
Sir, what is
the role of cinema in the development of deprived sections?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I am giving you one example. Take any field. You are a professor of which subject?
Environmental science, sir.
Environmental science.
Environmental science.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you name one great environmental scientist who is from Dalit background? You cannot name. Can you name a great physicist who is from Dalit background? You cannot name. Can you name a great economist who has got Nobel Prize from tribal background? You will not be able to name. But in cinema, the greatest lyricist of Hindi cinema was a Dalit. His name was Shailendra. He used to write for great cinema makers like Bimal Roy, Vijay Anand, and Raj Kapoor. Are you getting the point? Then there was a person who was illiterate, and he is regarded as one of the greatest filmmakers of India. His name was Mehboob Khan. Mehboob Khan was illiterate, and when Mother India became a blockbuster, you know, the distributor said the sum is so large, you know, that we cannot give you in cash. Please give your bank account. I said, I cannot sign, therefore I do not have a bank account. He was unlettered person. अंगूठा छाप था यार. अंगूठा छाप आदमी सकता है सिनेमा में. एक दलित, महबूब खान का नाम मैंने लिया. उसी तरह एक बाबूराव पेंटर था. बाबूराव पेंटर वो जो था ना, वो सड़कों पर और घरों की पेंटिंग किया करता था और मराठी सिनेमा का बाप है. ही इज द फादर ऑफ मराठी सिनेमा. उसी तरीके से जो राज कपूर था वो 9वीं फेल था, 9th फेल, and he is regarded as the Nehru's alter ego, and he is, you know, he is one of the most famous non-Russians in Russia. He is one of the most famous non-Chinese in China. आप समझ रहे हो, सिनेमा में पढ़ा लिखा होना या धनी होना या शरीर से मजबूत होना या ज्ञानी होना जरूरी नहीं है.
Thank you very much, sir. We have one more question coming from Nabarun Chakrabarti. Please, Mr. Nabarun, please come up and say your question.
Hello, sir. So I just wanted to interject first that there have been scientists from the Dalit background in India. For one example is Professor Meghnad Shah around the middle of the 20th century, who was a physicist. Who pioneered nuclear physics study in India. So, and the question I had in mind is like cinema, modern cinema as we see it started in the late 19th century also, and it's technological improvements continued into the 20th century. So when you are mentioning European cinema, are you actually referring to this period? So for example, the period before World War II started. So this was my question, sir.
नहीं, पहले तो आप ये बताइए कि आप किस जिले के हैं?
मैं फिजिक्स का हूँ सर।
नहीं, आपका जन्म कहाँ हुआ था? Where you were born?
मेरी पैदाइश कोलकाता की है सर।
तो आपको बता दूं, 1901 के सेंसस में, 1901 के सेंसस में जो साहाज ऑफ बंगाल हैं वो ओबीसी के रूप में लिस्टेड हैं। तो ये आपको कैसे पता चला कि वो दलित बैकग्राउंड में थे? आज भी हमारे सेंटर में एक आत्रेयी साहा नाम की एक स्टूडेंट है जो ओबीसी के कैटेगरी में एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर बनी है। तो आप ये कहना चाहते हैं कि आप सेंसस को नहीं मानते, क्योंकि सेंसस में जो साहाज ऑफ बंगाल हैं वो 1857 के बाद हमेशा ओबीसी माने गए हैं। कास्ट सेंसस 1911 तक हुआ है, और आप समझ रहे हैं 1857 से 1911 तक जितने भी सेंसस हुए हैं उसमें जो साहाज हैं वो ओबीसी हैं। तो आपकी जो जानकारी है वो हो सकता है सच्ची हो, लेकिन ये नॉन हिस्टोरिकल रिकॉर्ड से मैच नहीं करती। अच्छा, और दूसरी बात,
तो एक्चुअली उन्होंने
ऐसा है, आप बहस नहीं करिए। आप फिजिक्स के विद्यार्थी हैं, आप इतिहास के विद्यार्थी नहीं हैं, और डेफिनेटली आप डेमोग्राफी जहां पॉपुलेशन साइंस पढ़ाया जाता है उसके विद्यार्थी नहीं हैं। और मैं पहले मानता हूं कि मुझे आपसे कम ज्ञान है। मैं केवल आपसे, आई विल जस्ट रिक्वेस्ट यू टू इंट्रोस्पेक्ट, कि पूछने के लिए आपने सवाल पूछ दिया, लेकिन जो आपका फाउंडेशन है वो सही है या नहीं मैं आप पर छोड़ता हूं। यदि आपको लगता है कि आप सही हैं तो मैं माफ़ी मांगता हूं गलत बात बोलने के लिए, लेकिन मेरी जानकारी में जो दलित होता है ना वो केवल लोअर कास्ट में जन्मा हुआ नहीं होता है, वो अनएजुकेटेड भी होता है। उनके पिताजी क्या करते थे मेघनाथ साहब, जो मैंने कहा कि शैलेंद्र यदि टॉप पर पहुंचे तो उनके पिताजी मजदूर थे ना भाई, उनके दादाजी भी मजदूर थे। नॉन 30 जनरेशन से वो मजदूर लोग थे। मजदूरों का बेटा दलित परिवार में पैदा हुआ, दुनिया का हिंदी सिनेमा का सबसे बड़ा लिरिसिस्ट हो सकता है। यदि आप डॉक्यूमेंट लाएंगे कि 30 जनरेशन से मेघनाथ साहा का परिवार दिहाड़ी मजदूर था और कोई पढ़ा लिखा नहीं था, ये फर्स्ट जनरेशन के पढ़े हुए थे और दलित बैकग्राउंड के थे, उनका छुआ हुआ पानी कोई नहीं पीता था, तो मैं मान लूंगा आपकी बात। मूल बात क्या है कि सिनेमा में ज्यादा स्कोप है, स्पोर्ट्स में भी है। सिनेमा की तरह स्पोर्ट्स में भी डिप्राइव्ड बैकग्राउंड के डेवलपमेंट का ज्यादा स्कोप है, यूनिवर्सिटीज में कम स्कोप है। और मैं जब सिनेमा की बात करता हूं तो मैं सत्यजीत रे की सिनेमा की बात नहीं करता हूं, मैं उत्तम कुमार की सिनेमा की बात करता हूं, पॉपुलर इंडियन सिनेमा की बात करता हूं जो कमर्शियली सक्सेसफुल है। और रही बात यूरोप की, तो यूरोप में जब से सिनेमा का जन्म हुआ तभी से वो आइडियोलॉजिकल है। सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वार के बाद नहीं हुआ है। सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वार के बाद तो यूरोप में फिल्म इंडस्ट्री ही खत्म हो गई।
आपकी मैं पहले पूछ रहा था क्वेश्चन, मैंने पूछा था कि शायद सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के पहले
नहीं, तो ऐसा है कि नहीं, वो आज भी वो आइडियोलॉजिकल सिनेमा है 2024 में भी, और 1890 के दशक में भी वो आइडियोलॉजिकल ही था। और आप लोगों की जानकारी में फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वार से पहले जो यूरोप का सबसे सक्सेसफुल फिल्म इंडस्ट्री था वो बेल्जियम का था, जबकि बेल्जियम एक मेजर पावर नहीं है। जो बात मैं इंडिया के डिप्राइव्ड सेक्शंस की बात कर रहा हूँ वही भी मैं यूरोप के बारे में भी कह रहा हूँ। बेल्जियम यूरोप का ना तो सबसे धनी
Mr. Nabrun, if you want more discussion, you can write to sir directly. And sir, we are running out of time. Thank you so much for your valuable insights that you have given. We are thrilled to listen to you, and the way we have understood India today is mind-blowing. No ever in my history of education explain me what federalism means in India. Thank you, sir, for very much. And I would personally like to be connected to you, learn from you. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you for the knowledge that
Namaskar.
you have given to us.
Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.